Hello viewers, once again, welcome to PC Maths class. In this class, we'll be solving problems involving variations. We are going to solve problems involving variations from start to finish. We'll start with the introduction of variation. Then we go to the different types of variations. We solve problems involving variations or the different types, and also solve WAEC questions, examination questions involving variations in this class. So first of all, what is variation in mathematics? In mathematics, when we talk about variation, we are talking about the relationship between two quantities, how two quantities or how a particular quantity will affect another quantity. Let me give you an example: speed and time. If you want to go to a particular location, let's say that this is the distance, and this is let's say that this is 10 meters, or let's say that this is 100 or 1000 kilometers. Let's say this is 1000 kilometers, and you want to go from here. This is where your car is parked. Your car is parked here, and you want to go from here to this place. You are going to take, assuming you are at a speed of, let's say, let's assume 50 kilometers per hour, and you have another person going to the same direction, the same distance, 1000 kilometers, and this person is at a speed of, let's say, 80 kilometers per hour. What this means is that the person at 80 kilometers per hour will get to this location before this other person. What we are saying here is that as the speed increases, the time you are going to take to get to this place will reduce. Let's say that it took this person 2 hours to get to this location B, and you have another person from A to B. If you increase your speed, what it means is that this person might get to this place at let's say 1 hour 30 minutes. So what it means is that as your speed is increasing, the time you are going to use to get to your location will reduce. So here we are comparing two quantities, the speed and time. Also, there's another case of variation. Let's say the circumference of a circle and its radius. If the radius of a circle is, let's say, 7 cm, and you have another circle whose radius is 14 cm, what it means is that this circle is going to have a smaller circumference than this. Let's assume that the radius of this circle 7. This is the center of a circle, and this is 7. And you have another circle 14. Let's assume that this is the radius. This is 14 cm, and this is 7 cm. This radius is going to form a circle that is less than this. You're going to have a circle in this form. Let's assume. While this is going to give you a bigger circle. I didn't even get it. This is not even the center. So it's going to be more bigger than this. So this will give me a circle very big, that is even more bigger than this. So what we're explaining here is that variation is the relationship between two quantities. That is what we are explaining here. Between two or more quantities, rather. Now, we have types of variation. We have types of variation. The very first one is what we call the direct variation. We have another one which we call the inverse variation. and we have joint variation, and 4, we have partial variation. So these are the different types of variation which we are going to be discussing in this class. Let me discuss direct variation a little bit in this series. When two quantities varies in such a way that an increase in one leads to an increase to the other, we say that that variation is direct. Or let's say a decrease in one leads to a decrease in the value of the other quantity. Let me also use an example of radius and circumference of a circle. If the radius of the circumference of a circle, the radius of a circle is smaller, what it means is that the circumference of that circle is going to be small. If you also increase the radius of that circle, it means that the size of the circumference will also increase. So in that case, the variation of these two quantities is direct, because an increase in one of the quantity leads to an increase in the other quantity. Or a situation where when a quantity doubles, it also leads to the doubling of the other quantity. In such case, we say that that variation is direct. And in solving problems involving variation, we use this symbol. So if we can say that x varies directly proportional to y, what it means is that x, as s is increasing, y will be increasing. If s is reducing, y will also be reducing. And in solving these problems, for we to remove the proportionality sign here, we are going to remove this. For us to remove this proportionality sign here, we are going to introduce what we call a constant. We can call that constant k. So here we can say that x is equal to ky. So this is a way we can solve that problem. What it means is that if s is increasing, y is going to be increasing, and there's a constant that will lead to that. So that is the explanation for direct variation. We are going to explain these things before we now go into them properly. So for inverse variation, it means that when the relationship of two quantities leads to when an increase in one leads to a decrease in the other, we will say that that variation is inverse, or we call it indirect. When an increase in one quantity leads to a decrease in the quantity of the other, we say that that variation is inverse. We can take speed and time as an example, because when you have a distance you're going to cover, the more speed you are taking, the lesser the value of the time is going to take you to that destination, as I explained initially. So in that case, we'll say that that variation is inverse, and we can represent it as x varies inversely as y. It's presented this way. That s varies inversely as y. So we can say, for us to remove this proportionality sign, we can say that x is equal to k dot 1 over y. And this is same as x is equal to k over y. So this is how we represent inverse variation. Like I said, an increase in a quantity leads to a decrease in the other. So for joint variation is a combination of these two. Let's say a combination of direct and direct variation, or a combination of direct and inverse variation, or a combination of inverse and inverse variation. So when you have multiple quantities that you are going to combine in one, we will say that that variation is a joint variation. Partial variation involve addition of two different parts of variation. When you add two different parts of variation, we will get what we call partial variation. So we are going to be solving these problems starting from direct variation in our next class. Thank you for watching.